Hello, welcome back to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Supercoach Tradies, this one. Obviously, a fair bit going on, specifically around one Nathan Cleary. So, it's going to be a pretty hot topic, pretty much for everybody. But I'll introduce my co host, my right hand man, Trav. What's been happening, mate?
Thanks for the positive compliments. Hey, I wouldn't say I'm a co-host at all. Definitely a right-hand man, though. Held under the wing. Maybe I suppose a pretty good wing man, I guess. But
Yep.
yeah, thanks, man. Hey, it's good to be back. Pretty disappointed in Joel. I thought he's a bit of a dog. What a
A little bit.
flop. Not hanging around for this, but he's a bit busy. Got a few things to do on the page apparently. Supercoach is obviously not his thing. Hey.
No, well, he doesn't get it, does he?
Just does not get it.
No.
Yeah, it's good to be back, man. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say there's lots to talk about, but
There's not a great, honestly.
There's lots to talk about. One thing, I think.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of got the same, considering 99% owned, everyone's sort of got this dilemma, and a
In the
lot
top
don't have the
10.
trades. Yeah, in the top 10, and a lot don't have the trades to cover it. But look, I'll rattle off what we've got team list wise. It's pretty tame this week. There's not a great deal. Starting off with the Tigers and the Seagulls matchup, we've got um, what's his Adam Dewey is out, getting his workload managed, and Junior Tupo's in. Outside of that, it's not too much different. It looks pretty much the same 1 to 17. Alex Seyfarth keeps Ruben Porter out for whatever reason, but they did win a game, so I suppose you got to keep that rolling. For Manly, Tommy Talau's out, and Tolutau Cooler comes right in. So nice, easy, seamless spot for him. The back line's the same. The forwards are the same. Not much there. Anything on these?
Nah, I think Manly are going to roll West Tigers and load up on all your Manly boys. Unfortunately, we can't. Unfortunately, I can't VC Garrick into Turbo because holy moly,
Yeah.
I think they're about to put on a big score and they are rolling. As I said in the live show podcast, guys, go listen to that. Was a good one. Yeah, they're my fifth team. I think it's a 5-team race, and Manly are on. So I think it's going to be a bloodbath tomorrow night.
Yeah, I really do think so as well. And I think we'll get into the captains and vice captains in a bit. But yeah, I think there's reason and a fair one to just straight see some of these boys. But next game, Warriors and the Dogs at Sean Johnson Stadium. So his last game at home. So you would expect the Warriors to step up for this one, as bad as they have been at home. But for them, Wade Egan's back from his injury. So Freddie Lustig's on the bench. But again, if that holds, we'll have to wait and see. Shania Harris Tavita's the 18th man. Sean Johnson's final game, big one. So we'll see how they go. For the Dogs, Josh Curran is in doubt, I would say. He seems to be in doubt every single week. But I suppose the most notable thing is Max King is on the extended. So I'd be hard pressed to see him come in. I picked him up in a draft side this week as well, anticipating that one. But outside of that, the team is the same as it has been, rolling, which is nice to see. Anything on these two?
Avoid Warriors at all costs with the bye coming up too.
Yep.
And there'll be a couple of, like we'll talk about Burton coming up in the trade options. Yeah, that's about it really. Pretty simple
Yeah,
game, this one.
everything's pretty straightforward. And yeah, I think the Warriors kind of put themselves out of contention with around 27 buy, unfortunately. Wouldn't be
Yeah.
buying anyone. Next one up, Broncos and Eels. So there has been a little bit of a shuffle around with the Broncos. Obviously, we know that Reece Walsh is injured. And Ezra Mam is still out too. Obviously, Payne Haas. There's a few key players they're missing. So Tristan Saylor's in at fullback. Selwyn Cobbo is actually back in on the wing after a few weeks out there. Josh Rogers in at 5'8". Adam Reynolds in the halves, and the rest of the side as it should be. So for the Eels, Mike Acevo starts on the wing. Looking through the side, nothing too drastic as a change. Kelma Tuilagi in the second row too, outside, pretty much the same stuff there. So, geez, I suppose this game could be anything, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be. I'd say boring more than anything.
A little bit.
The only reason why I'm interested in this game is Dill Brown, and I think he's coming up in a good matchup against the Broncos for a decent score. So he's for people who are owning him, I think he's a good option. I think he's a good play this week, particularly against a pretty poor Brisbane team.
Yep. Yeah, I said before, I like teams playing against the Broncos. I think they actually put up quite a fair few Supercoach points. Broncos just leak like nothing else. But speaking of a team that leaks like nothing else, the Raiders versus Penrith. Jesus, this is probably going to be a bloodbath itself as well. So Raiders have shuffled things around. Rapana's at fullback. Kyle Weeks moved to 5'8", with Fogarty and Adam Cook in the 18th man. So Hopewadi's on the wing as well. He's been out for a few rounds. And I think Ethan Strange is out with a calf injury. So a bit unfortunate for him. He's been, pretty solid lately. But for the Panthers, Jesus Christ, the biggest thing to shock Supercoach again this year, for the third time, Cleary's out again. But I don't think we'll see him back for the regular season. So Jerome Luai shifts back into the 7, where he was very, very good in Cleary's absence, which I'm a big fan of on that side. But partnering Brad Schneider, where maybe not so much. Would have probably liked to see Jack Cole slot into that position, but Dylan Edwards at fullback. Dane Laurie keeps his spot on the wing, keeping River out. Luke Summerton in the 9 for Mitch Kenny, who's I think he's on a suspension. And Maverick Geyer in the second row for Scotty Sorensen. So, man, what's going on here?
Not a lot, really. I don't think it's going to be a bloodbath. I actually, I have Raiders as a smoky upset here for this game. How. So, yeah, I just think in Canberra, I think the Raiders are going to put on something after a beatdown last week, and I think they're ready just to put it on the Panthers. And I think the loss of Cleary is going to be, it'll wear its toll on the Panthers, and I think that the emotional strain of that's going to wear its toll. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a smoky. The only thing I will play, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, is obviously the Cleary out is huge. But there are lots and lots and lots of options, and we'll talk about that. And as pretty much everyone is. So you could go to any podcaster or anyone that's doing these things, and they're going to talk about Cleary this week. So, yeah, we'll have our own little say.
Hot topic. Melbourne versus Dolphins. So Tyron Wishart is on the wing for Grant Anderson, who's on the concussion protocols, and Suafalongo's on the bench for him. Not much changing outside of that. And for the Finns, Mark Nichols is back. So nothing too exciting happening with this set of team lists, but anything happening here, man?
Not really. No. And no one's really. No, yeah, that's right. I don't. We'll talk about this as well. I'm not trying to palm everyone off here through the TLTs, but we're pretty much going to talk about most of this and most of the relevancies around Cleary in the news. I think I'm worried about Jerome Hughes, so I think he'll get rested. I think he'll probably sit. I don't think he'll play all 80 this week against the Dolphins. I actually think the Storm will beat Dolphins pretty comfortably. Dolphins are going to turn up to try and play. I just don't think they're good enough. I think they were front runners with an early draw this year, and have when the goings got tough as the season got long, they've dropped away. So. Yeah. I think Storm will win the game pretty comfortably. I think Hughes will probably be rested this week for a part of it, and I think he'll sit out next week too. So bear that in mind. I think Cameron Munster's also going to have the same thing. With the way that they've named the team with Sewer in the 14 and put Wishart, I think there's just a few smoky plays there by Bellamy. I think some changes will happen. So just that's probably all. And then in terms of the Dolphins, I'm still very happy. Max Plath owner, who's been named in the hooker. It was one of the first things I did when I looked at team lists is where's Plath playing?
Yeah, he's been such a weapon at hooker, and I was wrong. I'll say that. Every day I thought he was going to take a dip, and all of a sudden he's just excelled. So I think anyone that has Plath can confidently play him every single week and bank at least 60 points minimum. So, yeah, bloody good one to have for sure. Rabbits versus Knights. So, yeah, this is a blockbuster, this. Big out, I suppose, for the Rabbits. Yeah, I really want to. Big out for the Rabbits. Cody Walker's out. Dean Hawkins is in. Not too much else happening outside of that. Richie Kenner somehow is free to play. Somehow. Riddle me that. But
I think
for the
the,
night,
the only really big thing out of that one, off the Rabbitoh, sorry to cut in, is that
you're right.
Walker's been left out,
Cody Walker's
which
out. Yeah.
which is pretty sucky news for people. There's still a few people that own him, so
Yeah. Concussion. I suppose he can't do much around it. So
yep.
yeah. But yeah, no, he's not been good for a little while. So he was a pretty valuable sell a couple of weeks ago. Knights. Who have we got? Jack Cogger takes over for Gamble, who broke his hand, so he's out. The rolling door of the 6 and the 7 keeps happening for the Knights, unfortunately for them. Will Price is on the bench, so they've opted for Cogger instead of Price, which I was thinking it would be Price, considering he was the last one to play that position. Dylan Lucas is in the centres next to Marzu, so fingers crossed it doesn't impact him a little bit. I feel like it might though, unfortunately. But no, the team is pretty much the same as it is always outside of that. Jaden Bailey keeps his 9 spot, and Phoenix Crossland's still in the 7. So move to the next game.
Yes,
Very
please.
comfortable too. Yes, please. For the Titans and the Roosters, both Vermor's starting again, so he's back from his kidney bruising. You know, nothing too hasty there. And Fodawaker's back as well from his suspension. So Aaron Clark and Haas go back to the bench. And that's it for the Titans, looking pretty good outside of that. For the Roosters, Warrior Hargraves is back. Spencer Leniu drops out, unfortunately, to the bench, and Nat Butcher is back in from his rib injury too, and he's starting at lock. So Connor Watson concussion too. Very, very unlucky for any Connor Watson owners out there. But liking what I'm seeing for this Roosters side, they've just got so much talent coming through, and yeah, I feel like they're rolling at a really good time, especially for the premiership contention. But Titans, man, you can never. I suppose they're a tricky one to pick, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Season's over for them, so they're not going to.
Yeah,
I think they're just playing for spots for next year, and that's probably why they've been so up and down, because you've got young guys fighting for spots, and one week they'll put it on, and everything will happen, and the next week they'll die. Like it's what young kids do when they're just starting out. So, which is what just happened. So.
yeah,
So you just don't know what they're going to put up against them. To be honest, that I think the Roosters, even if Titans do turn up, the Roosters are just too bloody good.
yeah,
They just outclass them in pretty much every spot,
yeah.
or at least match them. I'm a very scared Jaden Campbell owner with the Roosters this week, Knights, and then the Panthers the next 3 weeks. Yeah, I worry about that, and considering not playing Jaden Campbell this week against the Roosters
I'm not.
as a reserve,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, not
it
for
worries
me.
me. I am really keen to actually watch the game and literally watch Keanu Keeney. I just want to see. I just want to, like, I've been watching him for ages, and I think he's a gun, but I really like to see what he puts up against a really good team in the Roosters this week. So I'm keen to watch that one. And I think, as we'll talk about later, but there's 4 dudes for the Roosters that are captain options this week. Have a pick.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, really. I suppose is all about picking the right team. I think for a player like Keeney, I don't know. I just don't think he's got a bad game in him. I think you can just, if you had him, and props to anyone that still does. He's a confident play. I feel like he's almost fixture proof for it. But
I just think
I
he's fun to
am,
watch. I just think he's
yeah,
fun
he's
to
just
watch,
electric.
and he's just a young dude who's just playing for his life, really, and he's playing for his spot, and he's been playing so well. And against the Roosters this week, I'm really keen to see him. And the only other bad one for owners we know who does have ownership is Connor Watson's being left out.
Yeah, he'll be back next week, surely. So, um, yeah, I suppose with this game, we'll go into the last game, which is realistically, it's the most exciting game that we've got all week. It always is when these two come together, the Dragons and the Sharks, at Wynn Stadium, Wollongong. It's going to be massive, massive game. So For the Dragons, there's only one change. For Tyler Mariner's returning to the bench, so nothing too drastic changing for them. But the Sharks have got a fair bit going on here. So Trindle's back from his injury. So Brayley returns to hooker. You got Trindle in the 7. McInnes is back at lock. Kyle Lero's in the centres. What else is happening here? Teague Wilton's back in. Tom Hazelton's back in. And Sione Katoa's in as well. So, Jesus, they've got their full-strength side back together, and they're still able to do the business last week. So, again, it's very tricky to try and work out where the Sharks are at this time of the year. They always seem to be super up and down, but now this team, they've got everything going for them, but the Dragons have everything to play for. So what do you think?
Yeah, this is clearly the game of the round and about the only one that I really want to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll watch the Storm Dolphins game, but yeah, it's about the only one I've really got any interest in. Supercoach wise, Zach Lomax is the same as we talk about every week. I know the League of Inches Facebook page posted a nice little post about Jacob Little. Geez, he's flown under the radar. I actually went and did some maths since he's been playing 80 minutes, which was round 10. He's been averaging 71.3 points, like as a hooker. So it's incredible. Isn't that incredible?
It's wild.
Certainly flying under the radar. Yeah, and then Ben Hunt will talk about coming up, and that's about it. And that with the Dragons, and then in terms of the Sharks, I am very keen on Iro this week. I think he's going to put on a good number. I think he's good. I think you can lock him for a try. I am very, very keen on Nickera. I think he's going to have a big monster game this week against the Dragons. Yeah, some good Supercoach options. So that's about it.
Fingers crossed we got both of them, so that'd be nice to see. Not a massive team list, I would say. It's all it's all pretty stock standard, except the biggest one that affects Supercoach is Nathan Cleary. So, you look around and everything is Cleary. It's all over the shop, and fair enough. Like, we just lost the biggest player in the game at a very important time. There's a lot of head-to-heads. There's a lot of leagues as high overall ranked players with no trades left that are all sitting on him, and very little if they've got Jerome Hughes potential resting. Like, there's chances are that you need to make this move, and that's kind of where it's all going. But you also wanted to mention too that there's merit in the hold with the Nathan Cleary discussion. So the most common, the first people that you look at, your Cherry Evans, your Sam Walker. I would say the most common halves pairing would probably be Cleary and Hughes for the vast majority of the top 10%. Would you agree?
Yep.
So obviously you're not trading Hughes at the moment, not with the situation that's arisen, and you'd be going for Cherry Evans and Sam Walker. I'm looking at doing that move this week. I'm going to be going from Cleary to Walker. I had it pretty much locked in last week when Cleary went down, and that's my last trade. So I don't exactly have the depth that you have, but explain to me your process, man, because I know that you're looking at holding on to him.
Yeah. My process, and the reason why I think this is because I'm already a Sam Walker owner. I traded Hughes for Walker last week. Hughes cost me 13 extra points. Hughes got 60 odd, and Walker got 51, I think. So, yeah, I think you just got to base this decision on who your other halfback is. If you already have Walker, I actually think there's merit in benching Cleary, because it depends. So for me, I'll talk more about my situation. I have one trade left, as many do. So 1 or 2 trades. If you have 2 trades, I think it's an easy trade out Cleary and save you 1 trade for everything else that you might have potential for. I have 1. I have 2 fullbacks now. I've got 6. Well, actually, I've probably potentially got 7 playable centres. Casey McLean's my 7th player. I've got Brown and JC in the 5'8" spot. I've got Walker and Cleary in the halfback. I've got Plath, Nikora, Crichton, Olakawatu, Katoa, and then Porter in my 2RFs. I've got AFB and Tarpany in my FRF with the Hughes on the bench, which is a pretty common pair of threesome there. And then I've got Marnie and Robson, which we all know how diabolical bloody Marnie's been, but Robson's been pretty good for me. So in the hooker spot. So in terms of depth and what I've got, I'm going pretty well. So, however, I have concerns about a few things. I've got concerns over obviously the injury risk of the Turbos and Pongers. I've got concerns about what happens with Tarpany and particularly AFB in the front row. And when I sit there and I think, all right, so if AFB or Tarpany don't play or they get rested next week, when I know that AFB is not going to play round 27, I'm left with Hughes. And do I really want to play Hughes in the last two games, or even just for one game? And I think that's going to cost me. So I think that's one of my plays there, is that I save that trade so that I can potentially replace some of these guys that are going to get decent scores. I really don't think, based off the maths of this, that, Cleary and Hines are clearly the two highest scoring halfbacks who will easily and can easily get well over 100. Walker can get you well over 100, but then Walker can have a baseline of 25. No one else in the halfback has a ceiling. Like DCE will comfortably get you 60. And getting DCE going to lock in 60 points. I don't think Ben Hunt, and he's a play coming up, has that high ceiling either over the next few games. So I don't think the play of Cleary to any of those guys really has to be. I think you can think outside the box here. And you've got those options to do, save that trade and replace someone in the fullback, or save that trade and replace someone in another spot, or play with your jewels if you can, and think about getting someone who's in real high upside in your 2RF. So if you're still missing one of those big time 2RFs, get that. If you're still holding someone that you can duel into centre wing, I am not, but I bloody well wish I was. I'd play some duels and get an upside centre winger and load up on a Lomax or a Toto or someone like that in the centre wings. Or, as we spoke about on Monday, which Joel pulled out of the idea, which is really valid, is a Dill Edwards. A Ponga to Dill Edwards. He thinks Dill Edwards is going to score more than Ponga. I don't necessarily think that. I brought Ponga for the game against West Tigers, and then this 3 games coming up. But again, that's a playable option if the Knights start becoming, or not start, well, that's not the right way to say it, but if the Knights get knocked out of contention for the finals, I think Ponga's an option. I'm scared of Ponga being rested. So, yeah, there's lots and lots of options that we're going to unpack here. But I don't think you have to necessarily go Cleary to a DCE and get 60 points. I think you can go Cleary. You just play Walker and bench Cleary and move it around to something else, or play with Jules.
Yeah, I don't have the jewels. I wish I did. Any Drew Hutchison owners out there, or something of the like, you know what I mean? Like if you've got Burbo sitting in your centers or anything like that too, like if you've got the option to move players around. I know you've got Brown, Plath. If only you had a way to get your center freed up, you know what I mean? Like that's where your points are. That's where your Val Holmes and Carraz and Young, like we all saw it last week. They all went over 120, all of them. There are very few halves that can kind of do what these center wings can do. So that would be your best bet. I would love to go Cleary to Dom Young. That would be perfect, but it's impossible. One trade left and I don't have it. So it's different situations. And yeah, you make a good point too. Like, okay, you get in this player, you're obviously sacrificing potentially 40 average points going from Cleary to any other half on average.
Well, you're not sacrificing, you have to because he's out.
Well, you have to because he's gone, but you don't have to, because if you've got players that you're not playing this week, if you've got reserves that you're not, pushing through, like you're not playing, or I'm not playing Jaden Campbell this week, but 3-4 weeks ago, Jaden Campbell's putting up hundreds for fun. I mean, like there's an upside ceiling player that I'm not playing this week, but I am trading in for another player to get rid of Cleary, and I just don't have the options. And it's for the head-to-head side of things. If I don't get the win this week, it doesn't matter anyway. But my overall position's quite decent in general, so I still want to be making good scores. But I just feel like from here to the end of the year, you only have to look at 3 games, so it's not too bad. You're not looking at your next move after this. Where's this guy's money go and reallocations? I do this Cleary to Sam Walker trade. I've got 220 something K in the bank with no trades left, and it's heartbreaking. But it's the way it's all panned out. I didn't want to be making my last trade Nathan Cleary out. Definitely not. But you just look at the best, who's going to have the next best 3 games that you think. And I think genuinely out of all the actual halfback options that are available for it, so you've got your Sam Walkers, Cherry Evans. I'd say Jerome Hughes. I already have Jerome Hughes, and I'd say more than half of the top 10 probably have Jerome Hughes as well. I don't think he's necessarily a trade-in option for Cleary at this stage, unless you don't already have him. But Matty Burton, Jerome Luai, and on a real extra side note, Ben Hunt. But there's merit there for a lot of them, and I think percentage-wise, when you look at the highest ownership in the top pack, in the top 10%, outside of Jerome Hughes, Sam Walker's the highest owned. It's like, well, fair enough. He's been scoring really well. Their next 3 games are probably the softest. I would say next to the Panthers, to be fair, for any of like the other halfback viable options, which just sucks that Cleary's not around. But it could make Jerome Luai an option. I know his floor is very, very low. That's the problem. And I do like him more with Jack Cole than I do with Schneider. But it's a very important time for the end of the season for him. But you always got to consider restings too. And it's just a shitty situation to be in, really, isn't it? Just trying to work out. It's just so much uncertainty around it right now.
Oh, and what's funny is that we sat there all year going, we need to save trades for the end of the year.
Here we are with no trades.
We need to save them. Things are going to happen, restings and all sorts of things. And then we got to the middle of the season and we went, oh, this is teams in contention of the finals. The pool is really high. There's lots and lots of teams fighting for the bottom 4. And then it turned into, so then we thought, maybe you don't need to make as many trades and hold off a little bit because you've got all these options of these players, who are going to be putting up decent scores because they're still going to be playing the season out with contention of finals. Then we get to this point and we're sitting there going, God, we wish we had listened to the first quarter of the year when we said we need to save trades because none of us got any anymore.
No, but
yeah, it'd be great. I'd love to be able to see if there was some way to read the algorithms in Supercoach and see of the top 10%, what's the average, how many left. Geez, that'd be good.
It would be good.
And how much money. But I was just like, which segues into this. I was just looking at the most traded out. So the most traded out of all coaches is Nathan Cleary is the top 10. And then ranked in top 10%, it's Nathan Cleary. The number 1 trade for Nathan Cleary is Daly Cherry Evans at 17.8% of the top 10. Sam Walker at 16.6%. Jerome Luai at 5.8%. And then the rest of these trades are all major duels being played. And I love it. So the duels being played, Cleary out, Lomax in. 2.7% have done that. Cleary out, duels played, Dom Young in. 2.6%. Cleary out, Carraz in. 2.4%. That surprises me that 2.4% of teams in the top 10 didn't have him. 2.2%, Tom Travojevic, so fullback. Then 2%, Teddy, fullback. 1.7%, Edwards, fullback. And then 1.3%, Liddell or Little, hooker.
That's wild.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. How on earth are you doing that?
there's some serious
Ugh.
duels that are being played.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it, which which is telling me that you don't have to have that second halfback this year because your two major players are now both out. So I
Mm.
really like that, and there are some big upsides. Um, there's some big
What it
upside
also
players.
What it also could be too, like we're speaking on the grounds of having one trade left. Like there's plenty out there that have 4 plus. You know what I mean? Like it's people are in good positions, they're smarter than us, and they plan a bit better than us at this time of the year. But look, if you've got to go Cleary out to Sam Walker's, Cherry Evans, and the like, shit, you free up a lot of cash. If I had one trade, I've got 200. It's like 227k just sitting there. And like I'd be going Ponga to Turbo, for example, or I'd be going. I probably wouldn't do that specifically, but I'd be getting a center wing. I'd be getting in Dom Young. I don't have him. I've got Lomax. I've got Carraz. I've got Teddy. I'd love a Dill Edwards. Like if you've got that and you two trades, Cleary out, gone, put yourself in position, get yourself Sam Walker or whatever. Um, Far out, man. You can have some fun with that last move. God, it would be good to have. But
Uh,
yeah, there's a lot of good plays happening this week, and I think when you have a cash injection like that too, at such a pivotal part of the year, you could be really creative with it, and you're seeing it, man. You're seeing some massive players, and I think as long as these center wingers keep popping off, it's going to be a bit of a scary one not having been able to bring it in. But just glad that I've got pretty much most of the ones that they're bringing in. So it's even funny too. Like I haven't really looked too far at the rest of the trade outs because everything's sort of been clearly centralized. But in the top 10%, the second and third most popular trade outs are the Cows players, Drinkwater and Holmes. So after Holmes has been tunning up, what's that, 3 out of the last 4 weeks, comes to his buy and he's flicked. Um,
Must be some dudes in the top 10% that have got a couple of extra trades up their sleeve and are fighting for head to heads too.
yeah, that's what I'd be thinking. I'd be putting this one down to just strictly head-to-head focus, and you just need to get your win this week. Because if you can afford to bring him back next week and just ride him out for the rest of the year, there's probably some that will do that too. Jermaine Azarko is an out. I think Jermaine Azarko's been an out for a little while, unfortunately.
Well, I've actually kept him. And look, what did he get last week? 54.
50, yeah,
Um,
with a try.
you know, I'm happy to take 54 from Asako.
Yeah,
Sitting there in my sixth spot as a center winger, I can play him there and out. I'm not going to play him this week against the Storm, but I'm quite happy to have him there. I've got way bigger options and
yeah,
problems to be trading than trading him out.
100%. But that's the thing too. Like he's your fifth option center wing. Like there was a period of time in the year earlier where Jermaine Azarko was my number one
Number
center wing
one.
player. Yeah,
Yep.
he was my guy. He was 850k. He scored 140 plus. I think he did all that two weeks in a row, and bloody hell, he fell off.
Yep.
But when he's priced at 550, where are you going to go from him? Like the upside is just too high for what he can do. You may as well hold. Bloody hell, he's a playing player. I think right now they're worth the weight in gold. Number 5, Cody Walker. Fair enough. You don't have him,
Yeah.
do you?
Nope. No, I traded
No,
him a few weeks ago.
good.
Yep.
Um, Surprisingly enough, Isaac Tungo, number 6, and I understand it. Like people brought him in because Cleary was back, expecting that ceiling to go back to what it was, and as a repercussion, I suppose, with Cleary out, Tungo's out.
See you later, Tango.
What a shame.
Again, like I wish I was these 146 players or that had enough trades to be bringing him in the top 10% or trading him out in the top 10%. Wish I
Yeah,
was in that situation.
big time.
I see it like I'm agree with you. I see it. He's like you brought him in as the option as we waited for Cleary to come back, and he did his job. He got himself up to 506k. Um,
Yeah,
got you a couple of good scores, but now Cleary's gone. He's got no value again.
surely you got to repay the faith just a little bit. At least give him one more week against the Raiders. Bloody
Yeah,
hell. It's very, very, reactive. Casey McLean, number 7. And look, if you've got this money left over, I feel like that's what it has to be. Like you got Cleary out, you've got all this extra cash. You're like, oh, I may as well upgrade these guys because they're in a pretty upgradable positions. If you're finding yourself with an extra 200k in the bank, um, Isaac Tungo, they're all of a sudden 700k, like a few doors open up for you.
Yep.
And the same for Casey McLean. He's 430k. You know, he was 204 3 weeks ago. So hefty
Did
little
his
bump,
job.
which is did his job. Yeah,
I'm
100%.
gonna look. I think he's a playable option this week. He's in your 17s against Canberra. Got 87 last week against the Storm. He's a hard one to leave off the R this week.
Yeah, well, I've had him for 3 weeks and I've played him for 1, and it was the week he scored 20. So
20. Yeah,
yeah,
as we
like
all did
most.
2 weeks ago.
Yep. Number 8, Kalen Ponga. God. Well, yeah, I suppose same thing. If you've got an extra couple 100k, there's Dill Edwards.
Yeah, if that's what they're doing, be interested to know what they're doing with that and who that is. Yeah, like we all brought him. We literally brought him in. We waited for him to bottom out. We brought him in
Yeah.
against the Tigers. He got his 120. We then waited for last week, and then we knew we were bringing him in as well for these next 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I knew getting
I
him
think
in.
if you've got him, you play him. And I think it's an easy play. If you can trade him because you've got players to come out, I think. I mean, it's a ballsy play. It's a pod play. I can see it happening, but you don't have to either. It's not.
No.
I don't hate it, but I don't like it really much either.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like you got Ponga in. I just got Ponga in with the intention of just riding him out for the rest of the season. But again, I was in a position trade wise where I was like, if I get in, whoever I get in now is the guy that I finish the year with. So if you're playing ahead and you're going to play a bit of fullback roulette and you've got 8 trades left over, then shit, by all means, play the matchup, trade him out. So, but it's the
Yep.
South this week. Like you play in the matchup, you play this matchup. This is
Yep.
the matchup you want. Just for Ponga's numbers, 114 have traded him out for Cherry Evans, so dual wise, but 50 are for Sam Walker, Jules, and 37 are for Luai. The first fullback that he's traded out for is Tedesco, and it's only 12. So of those 100 and something odd trades, for a fullback, only 12 people are upgrading to him. So
Yeah, so I don't like them. I don't like any of those trades other than the Teddy one.
yeah, I
You're
just don't
losing
think
your
you're really
second.
going.
You're basically losing your second fullback. You'll be putting a Garrick which is still a good fullback, but you're putting in maybe an Hero down into your Jules to put him in fullback so that you can get those centre wingers. I don't like that. I would like it more if you were going Ponga to Edwards. I think that's a good trade. I don't like the Ponga to the centre wingers.
Yeah, no, it's fair, I suppose. Like ownership wise, we looked at it the other day when we were talking about the review show. I'd expect Dylan Edwards' ownership to have crept up a little bit, but he was only about 1.3% owned in the top 10%. I think if you've got the option to do it, like you're just going to be rolling in it soon enough. So, number 9, Appy Coruscant's out. Again, hooker trades at this point of the season seem like a hell of a luxury.
Yep.
And speaking of hell of luxury, number 10, Kyle Ero.
Yep.
I don't like trading out Kyle Ero. I know he's 666k. I know there's a lot of extra coin getting splashed around right now, and you can pretty much go from him to anyone you want in the center wing. But realistically, he's doing what every other gun elite center wing's putting up right now.
He's sitting in my 4th spot on my field. It's at the moment. I said I could put him in. I'd comfortably put an R on him. I've actually, since doing that, and when I said that at the start of this podcast, in the last 30 odd minutes, I put him straight into my 4th spot. He's on my field.
No, he's actually in my 3rd slot because it automatically flicks them to where their value sits at for me. Mine goes Karaz, Lomax, Hero, Garrick, and then I've got Marzu sitting away on the bench and a couple other plotters. But yeah, I just think he's just been so freaking good. Like I see a lot of people trading him out, and they have been trading him out for the last few weeks. I'm like, why? Why trade him out now when he's finally delivering like the peak of his potential? When it's just been 60s, I can still take the 60 every week. But each to their own, I suppose. If I had that much money and another trade left over, and it was my only way to get I don't know who else I'd need to get. I suppose you'd have to consider it.
Well, I feel like you're trading Iro as like he's probably a sixth or seventh center winger. More than likely, you're trading Iro as your seventh center winger.
Oh Jesus! If he's your seventh, bloody hell, your center wing looks good.
Then yeah, why have you loaded up? Like you don't have that many spots to put in. You
Yeah,
only got 4 Rs to chuck on dudes. I reckon one of them will be sitting in your 2RF. One of them
probably.
one of them will be sitting on your fullback. You won't be
Well,
playing
that's
everyone in your center wing. So I don't quite make sense of it. But again, it's only 140 odd people. But
yeah, it's not many. And I suppose at this point of the season, the percentage makes more difference than the number of people because we just don't have that sort of number of trade left over.
yeah,
It's just the lucky few. Trade ins, they're all pretty, pretty expected. I was surprised that Cherry Evans was higher, was more traded in than Sam Walker was,
I
to be
wonder if
honest with
people
you.
brought in Sam Walker earlier though,
Possibly because
or have kept Sam.
his ownership's a lot higher, just in general. His overall ownership, Sam Walker's, is 18%, but in the top 10%, it's drastically higher than that. You're looking at 28,700 total. And for Cherry Evans, his ownership is at 10,000 people. So overall wise, it's very different. And even in the top 10, it's not as much as what Sam Walker's looking at. So um, you would have to think that, yeah, there's just not as many people bringing him in because they've already got him.
Yeah, that's right.
But even still, they're quite close together. And there's not a great deal like in the top 10, and I'm only looking at the top 10, it's 2,500 and 2,000 people out of 16,000. So, like, they're not flocking, but they're definitely the biggest goes. And Jerome Luai's third. But I really like the Jerome Luai play. I think it's just really good. I think the duel is nice if it matters for you at this point of the year, but their run is so soft. Um, if he just goes back to doing what he was doing already in the middle of the year when he was killing it, they come up against the Raiders this week, which you think is going to be an upset. I don't really think as much, but if it's a hard game for them, fair enough. Then they've got the South and the Titans to end the year with, and that's really good. Like if
Do you think he plays? Do you think he plays out, or do you think he gets rested? I mean, he's played Origin. He hasn't been rested yet. He's had to back up and play extra because Cleary's missed a lot of the year.
mm,
Is it? Do you think he does get sat, or do you think he has to play because they haven't locked away the second spot and they want 2 home finals potentially?
I would say that's probably the more optional spot for him. I think when it comes to their position on the ladder, if they were a bit higher, if they're 1 win clear from the Roosters, they would probably rest. Um, I don't think they'll mass rest like the Storm probably will. I think if they do, it'll be a couple players here, a couple players there. It wouldn't surprise me to see him sit out though. Maybe like I don't see him resting. Well, they got the Rabbits next week. It's a very, very easy one for him to sit a couple. And if they just decide to go Schneider and Cole in the halves, I think they'll still do a good job of it. And I think they can still probably get a comfortable win over the Rabbits. So if it's going to happen, good chance it's next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ivan Cleary, that is, always rests the players, man. It's a going
He's
thing.
won 3 in a row, made 4 premierships by doing it. He's done it every year.
Yeah, and I think he must be aware at this point in time, like he's not going to come first. And obviously the home final would be convenient, it'd be nice. But who does that put him up against?
Well,
The
no, he still
Roosters?
wants to finish second. So he's not, top
Yeah,
2
but
gives him 2 home finals.
he's got to finish second.
Mathematically
So,
they can still finish first, but they for that to happen, they have to win 3 and Storm have to lose 3. Storm win 1 game and they've locked top spot away.
yep. Yeah, so that's probably not going to happen. But there's a good chance, like if they take their foot off the pedal, like they could drop from second quite easily because the Roosters' points difference is much better.
Yeah, well,
Only one
I
win.
mean, the Roosters are only 1 game below them, so and even the Sharks are one game below them. So, yeah, he can afford to rest, but he can't at the same time.
Mm.
And he has to be really, really strategic with it. But I feel like if he gets to the next game and knows, I'm comfortably I reckon I'll get seconds. Or, well, he won't even know that if Roosters won't lose this week. So yeah, he wouldn't even know whether he's going to have that locked away yet. So
No, not
I think
until
it's going to
Sunday.
be not until Sunday, and then that means what happens for the week after. So yeah, I don't think he does rest Luai, but there's certainly that option for it, and that's something you've got to
Yeah.
consider too. And
Mm.
and going into the next 3 games, when you're buying someone for total points, you want someone who's playing 3 games. You don't want someone who's going to play 1 or 2. You want
No,
someone who's
exactly.
playing 3. So I think avoid the potential resting is my advice there.
Mm. If you can avoid it 100%, but that's what puts Jerome Hughes out of contention for anyone that I would be thinking, like, I've got him, you've got him. No, you don't have him. You
No,
traded him
no, I
already.
traded him last week. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Jerome Hughes gets a rest next week. I think everyone's pretty much in agreement for that, and I guess I'll just have to cover it when it comes, and that's the reason why I'm very much in the mindset of I need to trade Cleary out now. Because I probably good chance that I don't have a half, but at the same time, like, I could play another player, sit on Cleary this week, and then just see what happens next round. See if Nico comes back, for example. Like, there's an option there that no one will have if he does. So, yes, they're a lot of
I
merriment.
think it's a shoo-in that if the Storm beat the Dolphins this week, Hughes will be rested the week after against the Cowboys, so he doesn't have to go to Townsville. I think that's a shoo-in. Put your money in the bank on that one. However, if they don't beat the Dolphins, I don't think they'll. Well, then they play the Broncos at Suncorp the week after. So I don't think it's a shoo-in that he then rests against the Cowboys, but I think it's a shoo-in that he rests against Brisbane. So depending on what happens
I'll
this
get
week
one.
will depend on he'll get one. It's just where. I think the last game as a bye would be much more of a nightmare than next week. Because that'll be where lots of other teams are resting players. So, yeah, you kind of want him to rest next week, but yeah, bear that in mind too, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose for the head-to-head side of things, that puts them in a grand final, which it's a killer. It really is a killer. And then for your overalls, I suppose if they don't rest next week and you can get your head-to-head sorted out, come around 27, where all your Warriors players are out too. There's going to be a lot of missing players.
Yeah,
We'll be lucky to put 13 out at that point. So, but yeah, just outside of the halves, man, for the trade ins, Dom Young. I suppose after he does that, scores a hat trick on his return from a hamstring. You want to rush him in. I bloody would if I could.
I
Play
already
that
have
in.
him. But God, he's a freak, isn't he?
Oh, God love him. Weapon in my draft side. I get my fix out of him every week just watching him there. So
Yeah, and look, there is potential for rocks and diamonds with him. Like last week against the Dolphins, or the week before that against the Dolphins, he got 29.
but he got
So
injured.
he does have but he does have a flaw. You know, he's
Yeah,
got that minus 15. There's a 36 in there. There's a 30 in there. Like he's got that really low floor. But yeah, like he's got 128. There's a 124. There's a 160. There's a 150. There's multiple
massive.
80s in his that like they're monster scores.
They're huge. Yeah,
And
like
then
you
when
look
you're
at his.
coming up against the Titans, Raiders, and Souths,
Oh, it's terrifying.
lock in some tries.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying not having him. But I hope he just keeps putting it on. To be honest, I need it for my draft. So, um, yeah, no, he's just been a freak. James Tedesco. Can't believe you don't have him already. That's all I'll say.
Oh, dude, I don't have him.
I know you don't have him. I don't know how you haven't. I suppose just never lined up for you. But you've got the next guy. You've got not Tommy Turbo. So there's one that freaks me out too. If I have to sit on him, I suppose Joel's the only one of us that has both.
He's got Turbo and Teddy, and you've got Teddy and Ponga, and I've got Turbo and Ponga.
Friggin', it's wild how that all worked out. But no,
Yes.
they're both the best options you can get. Like shit, they're freaking nuts. Difficult captaincy this week too, I suppose, if you've got that same headache. We'll get into the
Yeah, look.
captains. So
All
the
right,
next
so
three, there's a couple. Carraz, Burton, Lomax. I love all three of them. Maybe not Burton for the trade-ins for the halves, but yeah, Jesus, Carraz, Lomax are fantastic. So,
geez,
captain.
I'm still surprised people don't have Carraz. How is he not 100% owned?
Yeah, should be.
Like when I looked at these, and as I was preparing for this podcast, I looked at that and just went, "How is he not 100% owned?"
It's
He's
just
just a
rude.
beast. It is. It's rude. It's rude. Just a beast. And then, yeah, I find it really interesting the Jacob Little trade, right, in the top 10%. I think it's
Well,
brilliant. It's brilliant that people have those trades left to be able to do it, because that's very, very interesting to me.
I can see exactly how they would be going that way, though, and it's either if they've got enough and Robson on a buy, or if they've got enough and Connor Watson, or even both. You don't have a hooker this week, and he's the best option for you. So
Yep.
that's it. That's perfect. But if you're trading like Appy Coruscant to him, I suppose Appy's on a buy next week. You're preempting it. But
And
either
his
way,
crappy play.
and he's been, not very good. But look, man, for half the season, pretty much since he's been an 80-minute hooker, I can't believe Jacob Little slipped under the radar so much. But this bloke's been averaging over 70
Yep.
for over 10 rounds and
Yep.
has just been sort of plodding along.
Yep.
Where have we
No
been?
one even thought about it. No one even thought about it. Trying to deal with all the other bloody problems that Supercoach has given us. That's what we've been.
That's where our trades have gone too. Try and hold trades, but
Captains.
shit, when you're losing Cleary every other week, captains.
Yep.
My captain's pretty well locked in. I'm not overthinking the room. I know he's the most highly optioned captain, but James Tedesco for me.
I think that's a really, really good play against the Titans. Beautiful Sunday afternoon. Weather's going to be great, apparently. Yeah. I mean, not that the weather's even an issue. It was terrible weather last week, and he got a monster score. So
Yeah.
I don't think the weather, but hey, that makes it better for his running play that he does. Yeah, that's a really good play. I'm not a Teddy owner, for so those that don't have Teddy, there are other plays. The fantasy gold mine of the West Tigers. Yeah, who I would love, there's so many captain options in that Manly. Like you could
No.
pod play a Jason Saab for a bank of three a hat trick this week.
Yeah,
Garrick
I hope so.
when they put on 12 tries and he kicks all 12 of his field goals, plus he'll probably get one or two in there as well. He's a good play, but bloody Turbo's just an amazing play this week. I've got the VC on him, but you keep telling me to put just straight C him. So I will more than likely, by the time 750 comes up tomorrow, I'll have had the straight C on Turbo.
I just think if like it's Turbo versus the Tigers, it's a match made in heaven. There's points just begging, and if it
Ponga
was,
got 125 against him.
yeah, exactly right. And
What's
then like
Turbo going to do?
oh, okay, if it was on a Saturday, I'd be putting the captain on him. But because it's a Thursday and you've got the opportunity to take that first look, like I understand it, but then you've got to worry about looping. Then you've got to take an AE. Then you've got to do that for a play that's so good. Like it's so bloody good. If I had Turbo this week and Teddy and I had that dilemma or, vice versa, I think I'd be even straight seeing Turbo against the Tigers. It's just you don't let an opportunity like that to get points slip up. And considering he's not the most captain option either. In the top 10%, he's 34.7%.
Yeah, so a third.
Tedesco's 40. It drops
Yeah.
off a cliff after that, to be fair. But either
That's
way,
because there's not a lot of options this week.
there is though. I think there's a fair few.
I
I
don't
think
like anyone from the Bulldogs Warriors game. I don't
no,
like
I
anyone
wouldn't be
from the
playing that.
Broncos Eels game. I don't like anyone from the Raiders Panthers game. I don't like anyone on the Storm. because I think that they'll beat Dolphins and have some resting. So I think that puts out your Katoas and your Hughes. I think Ponga against the Rabbitohs Saturday night is a good captain's play, but if you VC'd Dill Edwards, or if you VC'd Turbo, you can't obviously play Ponga as a captain. So you just bear that in mind. But that's Saturday night. So there's some. So I lie. Sorry, in the Panthers Raiders game, I think Dill Edwards is a good play.
Yeah, I really like that.
And a smoky play. And then obviously, I don't like anyone Dragons and Sharks. But I think there's 4 options in the Roosters, and you can take a pick. I think they're all going to get big scores. Teddy, Young, Manu, Walker. I think they're all going to lock up a big score. It's just trying to pick which one's going to get the biggest.
Yeah, that's the problem. But they're on the same team. I think everyone in the Manly side is probably a great vice captain option. Outside of that, I think you've got a good shout with Garrick. I with the vice captains, I'd be looking at putting it on Garrick as well. And I just had a quick look, and he is the most popular vice captain option too, 18% in the top 10. So Turbo's in there at second, but realistically, it's just because they play Thursday, which makes sense. But Cherry Evans up there too at 12%. So there's a lot of people trying to capitalize on this Manly game. And that's why I think with that, you just sort of go, look, it's Turbo, it's the Tigers, and you take what's in front of you and you just captain him. That's what I'd be doing anyway. But don't let me sway your decision if you wanted to play your VC. It's a safer option at this time of the year, I guess, but I don't know. Just take what's there. Feel good about it too. I just can't see him having a bad game.
I think the captain options is there's some really good ones. I don't think you're going to go wrong this week. It'll be pretty unlucky if you do, if you stay with those big names. I reckon probably the biggest play this week is picking your reserves for your 17.
Yeah. I'm sort of lucky in a way that I don't have so much of a headache to really worry about. My reserves kind of pick himself most weeks, which is good. But I've got, well, the way that it's currently set up, I've actually got David Fafita on my bench, and with the reserve on him. My second row is Crichton, Katoa, and Nikora, and I'm very happy to play all 3. I'll be looking at Walker and Hughes in my halves. So currently the reserve is on Hughes. I've got Galvin starting 5'8", and I'm sitting Jaden Campbell this week. It's a toss-up at the moment with what I do with him, but at the moment I've got him sit out. My centre wing, Karaz, Lomax, Ero, and Garrick, and I've got the reserve on Marzu. I'm sitting Casey McLean. So again, I think the Rabbits fixture for Marzu is really good, and I kind of want to take advantage of it. But again, like I could be swayed into the Campbell play, but that's the Roosters. I just don't really like what's going on there. And then for my fullbacks, Captain Tedesco and Kalen Ponga with the reserve. So Ponga, Marzu, Hughes, Fafita. That's pretty much it.
Good play. I've taken the R off JC, as I said. I've got my R on Marju as well. I've got the R on Ponga, and I've currently got the R on Crichton and Katoa, with the view that maybe I take it off Katoa and put it on McLean.
So Katoa, Eli Katoa.
Yeah, I'm tempted to take it off. I'm tempted to take it off him and put it on McLean this week.
I don't know, man.
I think McLean's good for a couple of tries against the Raiders this week, even though I think they're smoky to lose. I think he's good for a try or two. I'm definitely going to play Olakuatu against the Tigers. I'm definitely going to play Nicker against the Dragons. I potentially will bench Plath and swap and.
I think you might be gone, mate. I'll wait for a sec for you to come back around if your connection's dropped, but I would be more inclined to probably play Katoa over Plath potentially on that side of things, but either way, doesn't look like Trav's actually going to be back for the end of this one because I think his laptop has actually died, but that's all right. We're pretty much at the end of it now anyway, so On the sit V starts, that's what he's doing. For mine, my side doesn't really change too much each week. It kind of ends how it does. But that's pretty much it for this episode tonight. Hopefully, your head-to-heads go well. Look after your side. Don't be too hasty with your trades. If you haven't got any left, it's a bit unlucky, but don't worry too much about it. For any Cleary traders out there, I suppose there's plenty of us. I'm bringing Walker in. Just back yourself in, I guess. It is what it is. It's 3 weeks left. You just take a punt. But again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.